What's up? I'm Coach Dan Blewett. In today's video, we're going to talk all about jamming hitters as a pitcher. All right, so in today's video, we're going to talk all about pitching inside and jamming hitters, some of the things to think about, some do's and don'ts, all that sort of stuff. If you're new here, I'm Coach Dan. Check out the description below. You'll find my pitching books, my online courses, my baseball strength program, all that good stuff. And be sure to subscribe because I have new videos each week. All right, first thing to know about jamming hitters. Number one, wood is going to be more significant than an aluminum bat, but it's still really effective to jam hitters who use an aluminum bat. And I know I'm speaking to most, most players, parents, coaches are in amateur baseball where you're going to use aluminum bats. Don't shy away, and I have another video that's all about why you should continue to pitch inside even with aluminum bats. But don't shy away with it. Obviously, a wood bat will explode if you hit it right on the end or on the end cap or on the trademark. And the center of percussion, which is known as the sweet spot, is smaller on a wood bat than an aluminum bat. So you can muscle the ball a little farther with an aluminum bat than a wood bat, but it's still really effective. It's hard to miss-hit a ball at all and still get it out, and it's really hard to get over an outfielder's head in general. So even if they're using aluminum bats, even if it's one of those hot bats, getting a pitch in, which is middle third or farther in, and that's my next point, is still going to be really effective with metal. So don't be afraid of pitching inside, even if they're using aluminum and these new hybrid composite bats. So second point here is this is what pitching inside is. Pitching inside is inner third and farther in. Inner half is a bad place to be. Inner half is where all the hitters in the home run derby ask their BP coaches to throw the ball because they get slightly out in front and it lines up perfectly with their sweet spot. So everyone who wants to pull the ball essentially wants the ball middle in. That's the easy one to put into the left center gap or the right center gap for lefties. So don't mistake pitching inside with pitching in. Inner half is a bad location to be. Inner third, so if you slice the plate into thirds, inner third and farther in is what we actually mean by pitching inside when you actually want to jam a hitter. If you throw it on the inner third, they have to get their barrel really far out in front to make solid contact and to keep it fair. And then the farther you go in, they have to either start pulling their hands in, which is tough, they get less power, or they're going to start hitting the ball hard but foul. So inside is a very effective part of the plate if you get it from inner third and farther into the hitter. Next point, you don't really try to get ground balls as much by jamming hitters with location. So let me first explain the difference between jamming someone location versus movement. So if I throw a four-seamer, which I did throw a four-seamer almost exclusively in my career, if I throw a four-seamer and I want to jam a hitter, I have to go purely on location to jam a guy. That means I've got to throw it on the inner third or farther in because the ball's not going to move. So he knows he's trying to hit it here. So he's trying to get his barrel to where the ball's going to be because it's not moving left or right. It's not sinking, right? It's kind of rising a little bit. My fastball had that high spin rate, but in general, the hitter knows where the ball is going to be, and the location is what he's not going to be able to get his barrel to fast enough to hit on the sweet spot. With guys that throw sinkers or two-seamers, or if you threw a cutter, which I really don't recommend for amateur players, but if you threw any of those types of fastballs, then the movement of the pitch can do the jamming. So obviously, if you throw a pretty good two-seamer, so say you're a righty and I'm a righty, which I am, and you throw your fastball, your sinker, your two-seamer, whatever, in the middle, and it's going to move 6 inches into me, I'm going to start trying to square it up in the middle, but then, oh crap, I don't realize that it's got as much movement as it does, and so my barrel was in the right location, but your pitch slid off it. Now you hit on the inside, now you get that ground ball, and you get jammed a little bit. So there's a very big difference between location jams and movement jams. When you have a great two-seamer, that's why it makes it so easy to pitch, or a great sinker, because you just throw the ball over the middle of the plate, and they see it out of your hand going down the middle, and then, oh crap, the movement of the pitch slunk it off their barrel, and now they get jammed a little bit. Or if they're a lefty, lefty-righty, then it goes towards their end cap, and they don't hit it very hard. So you have to understand there's a difference there, because you're not really trying to jam a guy when you're throwing a two-seamer down the middle. You're just trying to get him to essentially hit the top half of the ball, and he'll probably get jammed if it's moving into him, right? But that's not in the same sense as getting jammed by location. So the big difference here with location versus movement jams is when you get movement from a two-seamer or sinker, which is what the vast majority of you are going to throw, they're typically going to hit the top half of the ball and obviously the inside part of the bat, and that's going to put the ball on the ground. So if you need a ground ball double play, movement-based jams are much, much better because they're not going to get so far jammed that they hit it really weakly, which won't make it to the shortstop or third baseman or second baseman in time to become a double play. Remember, the double play balls are hard hit balls. So when you really jam a guy and like ruin his day and it's like kind of goes bouncing off and it's going to only go like 60, 70 feet, that's not going to be a double play ball. So you have to remember that if you're trying to jam a guy purposefully, like with location, which is the way I had to do it, that's not a good spot to get a double play ball. So you have to understand, like, that's going to be more of, I've got a runner on third, I don't want him to score, maybe the infield's in, or, you know, whatever the situation might be. Those jam jobs where if you actually execute properly and things go to plan, they're not going to hit the ball very hard. They might pop it up, they might break their bat, you know, they might just squib it, again, very short distance. So a location-based jam is going to be more effective at reducing how hard they hit it, but it's not going to be good for you as a pitcher if your goal is, I just want to get a ground ball, get a double play, and get out of the inning. Does that make sense? So if you want that double play ball, it behooves you to have a two-seamer or a sinker, which they can be an interchangeable term, and I'll link below to my sinker video. Or for me, as a spin rate guy, that I really couldn't throw a two-seamer that moved very well, I added a cutter later in my career as a fourth pitch that I could throw when I need a guy to put the ball on the ground, and be the same thing. I throw it into lefties or away to righties, and it would just slink off their barrel enough where they hit it hard still, but on the ground. And that was what I wanted, because if I was stuck in a first and third situation, one out, I would love a ground ball hit kind of hard to the middle of the infield rather than, you know, a fly ball to the outfield, which is all I could usually get, which is then get a score and cash that run from third. So it's really important to understand the use for jamming. When you really want to jam a guy hard, like go way in based on location, or you're going to throw a two-seamer already in that goes farther in, that's going to prevent a guy from third scoring, or it's going to keep the ball in the infield a lot better. It's really going to be tough for them to drive it if you execute. If you want that ground ball double play, then throwing it down the middle and letting the movement get the ball off their barrel, you know, whether it's jam or away, honestly, that's what's going to be more effective for getting you out of those big jams with a double play ball. Now, the last thing I want to cover is there can be kind of a penalty for a really strong hitter sometimes. And what I mean by this is, you know, I'm 6 foot, 200 pounds. So, you know, even though I was a pitcher, I can hit the ball pretty hard. So if you jam me a little bit, I can probably still hit the ball pretty far out in the outfield for like a routine fly ball, right? I could still muscle it pretty far out there where an outfielder can catch it. So as a pitcher, you almost benefit from my strength because I'm going to put the ball far enough out there, even if I'm jammed, where it's not going to go out. There's no way I could hit a ball that I'm not squaring up out of the park, at least not very far out. But I can hit it far enough where an outfielder is going to have a beat on it. If you pitch to weaker hitters sometimes, who don't have a ton of pop, they can often have a reward where their jam job isn't going to make it to an outfielder, and so it falls in a lot more of the time. So sometimes strength of a hitter is a positive for a pitcher, where if he's trying to really drive the ball and he doesn't square it up, he's probably going to loft it up a bunch, and it's going to be a pretty easy out in the outfield. Where again, if I'm a smaller hitter and I can't hit it over the outfielder's head very well, and now I get jammed and it reduces my exit speed a lot, it's got a much more high likelihood of falling in for a hit. Now, that doesn't really, I don't think that's really going to affect your strategy and what you're going to do and how you're going to pitch, but it's just something to be aware about. Sometimes it's nice that, man, this guy's got enough power to really put it out there far enough where it becomes a can of corn, rather than that dying quail, that fading line drive into the outfield. Now, the guys that are better at squaring the ball up can hit that weak line drive still, that's going to fall in no matter how hard they hit the ball. But guys that don't square it up quite as well, if they get some loft under it, if they're stronger, it's going to be a more routine fly ball rather than that dying blooper that falls in for a hit. And so at the end, let's talk strategy here for a little bit. So number one, there's a misnomer that if you don't throw hard, you should not pitch in. This is false. And a lot of coaches will harp on this, and this is false. So I'm here to tell you that. If you throw really hard, it's a lot easier to pitch inside and get away from mistakes and still jam guys. So you could miss over the inner half, which is a really dangerous spot, and still jam a guy if you throw super hard. Like if Aroldis Chapman throws the inner half, I'm still not getting around on it, even though that's a wonderful location otherwise to hit. So when you pitch inside, you're going to get damaged a lot more by pitches over the wide of the plate. So you have to, when hitters are really comfortable against you, so if you throw slow and I'm up here, I'm not afraid of you hitting me, and so I'm pretty comfortable, and so I'm just going to kind of be ready to take big hacks, extend my arms. I'm not afraid of you jamming me because you don't throw very hard, but at the same time, that awareness by the hitter that he's not afraid of you, that he has confidence, that he's ready to just kind of go with the outer part of the plate and just try to pull into the gap, makes him susceptible to you banging him inside with a good fastball. Our closer 1 year in college, college summer ball, was a guy who threw 80 miles per hour from the left side, and he jammed dudes all day. Because A, they were using wood bats in the summer, and B, he could actually hit his spots really well. So even though he threw 80, which is well below average for that league, he was always inner third or farther in when he got, 0-1, 1-2, and guys are like looking to take him deep, and then it's suddenly boom, and it's called strike two. Now, they know they have to cover both sides of the plate, and that's really hard for a hitter to do. And it plays against hitters' egos. Hitters don't like to feel like this on a guy that doesn't throw that hard. And so then, oh, he came into me, I want to be ready for it next time. And that's what they would do against this guy, Pete. I want to be ready for it next time, and then guess what? Boom, fastball on the outer part of the plate. They're already kind of like getting ready to ambush the inner part, and now he beats them away. They ground into a double play because they hit off the end cap. So when you can actually go in and out, which is especially important for pitchers that don't throw that hard, you really start to force hitters to cover both parts of the plate. If you're one of those kids or you're one of those coaches who only likes to call away, hitters get very comfortable. They'll start to take the inner part of the plate away. They'll start to extend their arms, and as you start to see that, they're going to start hooking outer half pitches and outer third pitches onto the pull side. And so you have to keep them honest by going inside. The last thing I want to say is going inside early is hard. Umpires typically will not call inner part of the plate pitches as much as they will outside. I think they lose it a little bit, especially with righties. When it's in here, it looks more like a ball than it does away, where there's sort of like this clean view. So in my experience, I always tend to try to get a strike either in the middle of the plate or away first. And then when it's 0-1, when hitters know, all right, I've got to start swinging a little bit because I'm going to be 0-2, or if you're already 1-2 or 0-2 and they've got to swing, now they're going to start to have to swing at this inner part of the plate, and umpires are going to start to call it a little bit more. And that's just my experience. I don't know that I have data to back that up, but I don't think we really need data to back that up. Inner part of the plate, hitters are also a little less likely to swing if it's really far in, and you don't want to throw inner half on the first pitch or pretty much any pitch. So again, if you're going inner third on 0-0, a lot of times you're going to end up 1-0, and then you're going to have to bring the ball back over the plate, which is going to put you in a little bit of a trouble spot. So I really recommend most of the time being aggressive early out over the wide of the plate. Try to get your first strike. Then when you do and you start to get ahead, then you can start to go in, and hitters have to start to swing, and they're going to get defensive, especially as they get farther and farther behind the plate or behind the count. And that's when you're really going to get them, when they're 0-2 and they're nervous that you're going to throw them a slider or a changeup or a curveball. And so now their bat speed effectively slows down a bit. And so now they're even less likely to get their barrel all the way out in front of the plate to hit the ball hard on the inner part of the plate. So be aware that jamming is really, really effective, but also the count matters a lot. If you go inner part of the plate on 2-0, when hitters are already ready to like Happy Gilmore ambush you, it's going to be a lot harder to be successful there. But when you start to get ahead of the count and you start to bring the ball in and they're getting defensive, it becomes pretty easy to pitch that way, and then they are screwed having to cover both halves of the plate. So hopefully today's video was helpful. I'm really passionate about pitching inside. That was something that really made me a good pitcher later on in my career. I had to pitch inside to be successful, and not everyone is in that same boat, but it's really important just to think about it, integrate it into your game, see what works for you and what doesn't. If you don't go through some of the trial and error and tinkering as a pitcher, you're never going to know what spots are good for you, what locations you can hit, and where you can really thrive based on your strategy, your pitch calling, and your execution, all that good stuff. So thanks again for watching. Check out the links in the description below. Please subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next video.